Peoples of the world, welcome back to the EDH Community Theater. I'm Capital G, showcasing real decks played by real people over on our spell table and Discord groups. And the Noises has given us a fun little ninjitsu deck, Satoru Umezawa. One of the highlights from Neon Dynasty earlier this year. Although we're not playing with just ninjas, as we can see, we're playing with some heaters. But before we dive into the deck list itself, there's my details for Discord and Tik Tok. Also the server Many Things, the place you can primarily find me on. And of course my username for Board Game Arena. Send me a DM and we'll try to arrange a game of Wingspan, Ticket to Ride, Castles of Burgundy, or any other great board game featured there. So, the Noises. He challenged me a little bit with Satoru Umezawa, not because I don't understand the deck, but because in his experience in piloting the deck, a lot of people aren't super familiar with some of the nuances with Ninjitsu. In the description, I'm going to link a video from magic designer Gavin, who goes in depth on all the shenanigans you can pull with Ninjitsu. But for the purposes of today's video, know that once an attacking creature is considered unblocked, you can ninjitsu it back to your hand, put down another creature. That creature is also unblocked, and therefore that can be ninjitsued out. And that can happen before combat damage, and it can happen after combat damage. There is still one step left in the combat phase after combat damage, called the end of combat step. So, during either of those steps, you can ninjitsu as many times as your mana allows. And Satoru Umezawa says that all of your creatures have ninjitsu 2 black and blue. So as long as you got 4 mana up, you can take back an unblocked attacking creature, drop in a monster. And then once that monster's done its work, you can ninjitsu that back to your hand, put something else down. And as long as you've got the mana for it, you can keep doing this. Palinchron makes that very easy, being able to untap up to 7 lands every time it hits the battlefield. It's also got a cool ability where it can return itself to your hand, although in this instance not super necessary. It's more about getting that untap value during the attack step. That is why Palinchron is my pack one, pick one for this deck. Some interesting combinations that go with Palinchron, as we'll see over the course of the list. Starting with our artifact, a common starting place for us, the Arcane Signet. This is one of the Warhammer 40k Arcane Signets, and that is both disgusting and absolutely gorgeous, this one, I have to say. I haven't seen I've seen one of the decks in action so far. I've also watched some gameplay, and those decks are amazing, but we're not talking about those today. The Bite and the Thassa. Our creatures are going to get through for damage. Let's draw some cards. Dimir Signet, Valwar Stone, Mind Stone, Prismatic Lens, the Sol Ring, Talisman of Dominance, and Thought Vessel. Rounding out the artifact package, not too much happening there. Creatures, we've got 30 of them, and for good reason, because we're going to be bouncing them back and forth between our hand and the battlefield. Starting with Archaeomancer, which lets us bring an instant or sorcery back from our graveyard to our hand. The Archon of Cruelty. You cheat this out for 4 mana. This is actually a really nasty piece of work, isn't it? Baleful Strix. Obviously, we're not ninjitsuing this in. We're going to ninjitsu it out after we swing for damage. Draw some cards. Blight Steel Colossus. A lot of people figured this would have been the pack one, pick one, but it's boring compared to the Palinchron, in my opinion. But still absolutely devastating. When you're playing against a Satoru deck, assume they have the Blightsteel Colossus unless they've specified that they did not have it during Rule Zero talks. Because if they cheat this out, if you choose not to block a creature and they ninja this out, well, it slides out for you, straight up. Changeling Outcast can't be blocked. It's every creature type, including Ninja, which may be relevant with some other synergies. Cryptcast. It says whenever you top a swap for mana, add black to your mana pool. I'm going to repeat this every time I see it. Extort. It says the extort ability is whenever you cast a spell, you may pay a black or a white. If you do, each opponent loses a life. and you gain that much life. Reminder that this is reminder text, not... It just reminds you on how extort works. In concept, the card can be printed with the word extort, and as long as you know how the ability works, there's no mana symbol. So therefore, this card can always appear in a deck. It has to have a black color identity to that deck, but it doesn't need a white color identity. Dauntless Voidwalker. It's more for the unblockability and exiling your opponent's cards when they would go to their graveyard. Yes, you can tap the sack list and play one of the cards. The temptation is always there, but I'd prefer to keep it as an unblockable creature myself. Deadeye Navigator. Great combo piece. If you connect this with Palinchron, that's infinite mana right there. It's lights out. Demon of Dark Schemes. Funny little mini board wipe. When this enters the battlefield, all other creatures get -2/-2 until end of turn. Whenever another creature dies, you get an energy token. Energy, of course, another alternative resource you can spend on some spells or abilities. In this case, you can spend it on the Demon of Dark Schemes abilities. 3 mana and 4 energy to return a creature card from a graveyard to the battlefield under your control. Demir Infiltrator simply cannot be blocked. Also has Transmute, so you can also go tutor out a 2-mana card if you need to. Gudel Lurker. 1 blue, cannot be blocked. Has Megamorph. You're not playing this face down. There's no point in doing that. You're not playing this face down. Hullbreaker Horror. This has Flash. It cannot be countered. And these ETBs are powerful. Return a spell you don't control to its owner's hand. That effectively counters the spell because it does not resolve. But this actually gets around the whole, this spell can't be countered. Well, you're not actually countering the spell, you're just sending it back to its owner's hand. It's no longer on the stack, it's no longer going to resolve. You can also return a non-land permanent to its owner's hand. And this is just a great thing to be able to ninjitsu back to your hand. Fun thing, fun fact, fun times. Ingenious Infiltrator. It is an actual ninja. It's got a ninjitsu of black and blue, and whenever a ninja you control deals combat damage to a player, draw a card. Yes, please. Invisible Stalker has hexproof and unblockable. This thing is nasty. Hexproof and unblockable. This means that you do not, if you see this on the table, do not, under any circumstances, allow Satoru to remain on the battlefield. Otherwise, it's lights out. There's no way you can get rid of this thing and prevent the ninjutsu action from occurring. Jingataxius. At the beginning of your end step, draw 7 cards. Each opponent's maximum hand size is reduced by 7. Always been a nasty piece of work, especially when you can cheat this out for 4 mana instead of 10. Even the more recent one, Jingataxius Progress Tyrant. Only 7 mana, but still, you cheat this out at 4, and it's really, really difficult to get rid of. The Massacre Worm. Again, -2/-2s all of the creatures our opponents control, and then whenever a creature an opponent controls dies, they lose 2 life. The Nether Trader. Whenever another creature is put into a graveyard from the battlefield, you may pay black to bring this back from your graveyard to the battlefield. It also has Shadow. So again, another great, very difficult to block creature. Rilsa. I'm happy to see her here. When she enters the battlefield, you take the initiative, and then whenever you attack, target attacking creature gains Death Touch. I think that's really for that attack trigger, because then you can attack with a dinky little 1/1 that's otherwise blockable, and then our opponent has to decide: are we going to block it, or are we going to allow the ninjitsu to occur? So, definitely makes math for blockers. Runescar Demon. If you ninjutsu this in, not only is it dealing 6 to our opponent's dome, but we get to tutor out a card. Sheoldred, forcing our opponents to sacrifice creatures every turn while we get creatures back from a graveyard. Silver Fur Master. Reduces the cost of the ninjutsu abilities. This is actually fantastic. This pairs very nicely with Satoru. That means the ninjutsu abilities only cost 3 mana instead of 4, and this pairs up very, very nicely with Palinchron. The Siren Storm Tamer. It's a 1/1 flyer, very difficult to block. But on top of that, this can counter a spell or ability that targets you or a creature you control. So, if someone wants to try to remove one of your things, This is an excellent defense. Slitherblade, a simple cannot be blocked. Sun Quan, Lord of Wu. Creatures you control have horsemanship, which means your opponents can't block them unless they also have a creature with horsemanship. Make your entire team unblockable. Oh, that is very difficult to deal with. Tasuku Umezawa, Fugitive. Creatures you control with power or toughness 1 or less cannot be blocked. Pretty sweet. Thassa, God of the Sea. Gives us the scry in every upkeep. It also gives us an active ability that says a creature we control cannot be blocked this turn. Thousand Face Shadow. It's a 1/1 flyer. It's got the Ninjitsu of 4, so these can be ninja'd in. When this enters the battlefield from our hand, if it's attacking, create a token that's a copy of another attacking creature. The token enters the battlefield tapped and attacking. Nice. And usually if you ninjutsu this is after blockers are declared. So, after blockers are declared, there's another creature tapped and attacking, but there's no opportunity to block that creature. Toxrill, very, very toxic card in our format, in my opinion. But a very nasty one. Cheat this out at 4 mana. Ooh, your opponents are not going to be able to catch up from that. And of course, running Yuriko, because we do have other ninjas in the deck, so being able to get that extra card value and extra damage in. And we've got some pretty expensive cards in here too. So Yuriko does actually work very nicely in this deck. Enchantments, we've just got 3 here with Bitter Blossom, giving us some fairies that we can attack with. Necropotence to help us draw into our combo pieces, and Rhystic Study. Instants and sorceries, lots of instants. This is one of my favorites actually, Admiral's Order. So double blue 1. It's a counter spell, it's a cancel. But if you attack with a creature this turn, you may pay a single blue rather than pay the spell's mana cost to counter a spell. So, non-discriminatory counter spell will counter whatever you need to counter for a single blue. Because we're attacking. I like it. This is spicy. An Offer You Can't Refuse, another 1 mana counter spell. It can only counter non-creature spells, that's totally fine. That's usually what we'll be interacting with. Let them have their treasures. Chain of Vapor. Just a great way to bounce a permanent, any permanent. Counter spell. Cyclonic Rift. Of course we're going to run the Rift. Ghostly Flicker. Exile 2 artifacts, creatures, and or lands we control. Great defensive card, usually a great combo piece also. Combos very nicely with the Archaeomancer. That is an Infernal Grasp. Yes, it's a foreign language text, but it is an instant that says destroy target creature, you lose 2 life. Probably the most efficient destroy target creature spell in black. Limdal's Vault. For 2 mana, we get to keep up to our library 5 cards at a time until we find the 5 that we like and leave them on top. Mana Drain, of course, the best counter magic spell in the game. Pact of Negation, 0 mana counter spell, great way to defend our board, especially when we're going for the win. Reality Shift, great exile effect. Swan Song, it counters an enchantment, instant, or sorcery. Again, most of the time we're going to be casting our counter magic to defend our attacking creatures, so a card like Swan Song is perfect. Vampiric Tutor rounds it out. Sorceries, only 3, but they're big ones. Decree of Pain. Destroy all the creatures, draw all the cards, or we can cycle it away and -2/-2 the board. Demonic Tutor. And Toxic Deluge. A couple of Planeswalkers to go with that. We've got Kaido Shizuki. Great flavor add. It also gives us access to some unblockable ninja tokens. So a very good fit regardless. And Tezzeret, Artifice Master. This spits out some Thopters that are hard to block. It also draws us some cards using the 0, 1 or 2 cards depending on how many artifacts we have. Alright, that is the core of the deck. Lands, we got 38 of them. The high land count is very much justified here because we want to have enough lands in play to take full advantage of Poundcron's ETB effect. Also, we're running fetches, so not all 38 lands produce mana on their own. So Bloodstained Mine, of course, go get a Swamp. Cabal Coffers, so we're running the Cabal Coffers or Borg combo, as you can see here. Clearwater Pathway, which you could play on the front side and this taps for blue, or you can play it as Murkwater Pathway on the back and tap it for black. Command Tower, Contaminated Aquifer, Creeping Tar Pit, Dark Slick Shores, Dark Water Catacombs, Demir Aqueduct, Drowned Catacomb, Dusk Mantle. Target player puts the top card of their library into their graveyard. When we go infinite during the combat step with Palinchron, we'll be able to accumulate mana. And this is a land that not only taps for mana, but we can eventually dump some of that extra colored mana into it in order to mill out our opponents during our combat step. So that's the idea here. Just dump our opponents' graveyards, libraries into their graveyards in full. Fetid Pool, Flooded Strand, 4 islands, a Marsh Flats, Misty Rainforest, Morphic Pool. Nephalia Drownyard, same thing. We can use this to mill our opponents 3 cards at a time. Nyktos, Polluted Delta, Reliquary Tower, Scalding Tarn, Shipwreck Marsh. She's out. Death's Storehouse, giving a legendary creature fear until end of turn. Again, that makes it easier for our Satoru himself to go into the red zone if we need it. Sunken Hollow, 4 Swamps, a Tainted Isle, Takenuma, Underground River, Verdant Catacombs, and lastly Watery Grave. So lots and lots of lands in order to take full advantage of the Palinchron. And on that, well, OhTheNoises, thank you again for sharing this. We're definitely going to be challenging everyone's perception on Ninjitsu. But thankfully, Gavin has done all the work for me already. And again, that video detailing the intricacies of Ninjitsu will be in the description below. As for cards I think of when I see the list, well, the nice thing about Ninjitsu is that when you Ninjitsu a creature back to your hand, it's a cost, not a targeted effect of any sort. So a Lightning Greaves will actually be a good fit here to get some of our unblockable creatures going in a hurry. One other creature I would consider, just because it's a great board wipe, ideally we'd be attacking with Satoru and bringing him back to our hand, is the Massacre Girl. So imagine just dropping this out of nowhere during combat. That's kind of my thinking. Another great defensive spell, which also gives us a creature we can eventually ninjutsu out, is Lazotep Plating. A card that has stolen a few games from me over the years. Being able to provide yourself and your board hexproof until end of turn. It also gives us a zombie army token. So there's some good synergies here. It's a card that I think of when looking at a deck like this. And a couple lands I'd suggest. This is actually a good candidate for Temple of the False God, since we're trying to get to enough lands to take full advantage of our Palinchron. Temple of the False God is a great addition here. Taps for 2 colorless. It means we need 1 land fewer in order to go off with our Palinchron. So I think it's actually a good add in this build. And a way to make sure that no one interacts with you or manages to save themselves at instant speed during their upkeep once we've milled them. Just a simple Mikakoru. Each player draws a card. Like once you've got everybody milled out, just finish them right then and there with Mikakoru. Or if your opponents are completely tapped out and have no interaction, you could probably just draw them out right then and there. Obviously, make sure that you have enough cards in your deck to not draw yourself out if you go that route. But still, I think it's a sneaky little add myself. But on that, again, OhTheNoises, thank you for sharing that. And we will see you all again next time on EDH Community Theater. If you want to see more, there's the channel link right there. And a couple of my more recent videos over here. As far as the recently released Warhammer 40k and Infinity sets go, well, the 40k decks are perfect as is. Yes, they're upgradable. There's ways to make them like better, faster, stronger. That's always true of the precon. But they're just so Flavor Fleet perfect. I don't really want to mess with them myself. Unfinity, on the other hand, I've never been a fan of unsets. And this one is easily the messiest. I'm not interested in that, so unfortunately I will not be doing any Unfinity content for the channel. I did consider it, I did say so at the end of the last video, but just a heads up, I will not be doing anything with Unfinity or Warhammer 40k at this point. Brothers War, on the other hand, that's going to be exciting. So definitely looking forward to that, and we'll see you all again next time. Bye for now.